Hey guys, welcome back to the BuzWeaver channel. We had some late evening breaking news and into the much later evening news, and that is from the New York Post. DNC Biden allies want phone carriers to vet anti-vax messages report. The Democratic National Committee and other White House allies want wireless carriers to scrutinize phone and social media messages for alleged misinformation about the Biden administration's push to vaccinate more Americans against the illness, Politico reported Monday. According to the outlet, the White House is pushing back hard against critics of its messaging after failing to reach the goal of having 70% of American adults receive at least one vaccine dose by July 4th. So, this is very concerning on several levels because the only time I can ever remember the government or agencies within governments trying to push for anything with this much vigor were the mandated seatbelt laws, at least here in the state of Georgia. But it's one thing if social media sites are going to add edits or block or suppress information. It's totally different when you're using a utility, which is your phone, okay? That's very serious and very dangerous because your phone is your utility. So what if, for example, the government does do some sort of editing of messages? Well, does that mean that people can be suspended from using their phone? Will people be ineligible to use their phones? And people are complaining about how difficult it's going to be able to vote because you got to have an ID. Imagine if your phone is shut down because maybe you said something inappropriate. And how do we know that this sort of measure isn't going to extend into something else? Maybe it'll extend into voting. Maybe it'll extend into who knows what other sort of net nanny type stuff that's going to be going on. This is incredibly dangerous, sets a terrible precedent or precedent. Part of that effort, Politico reported, is planning to engage fact checkers more aggressively and work with SMS, short message service carriers to dispel misinformation about vaccines. What in the earth? So you're going to tell me, what are we going to have the NSA use some type of AI or the phone companies use an AI to then pilfer through, collate all of the people's information and text messages that are being sent on their phone? What about the content on the phone that isn't related to vaccines? Isn't related to the illness? I almost said it just then. What if, I mean, this is outrageous. And not only that, in the next article here for you guys from Politico, potentially a death sentence. Wow, that's quite a heading. White House goes off on vaccine fearmonger. So here we have it, ladies and gentlemen. If you can't create a mandate, if you can't create laws that are going to get people to comply with whatever it is you're trying to push, like get vaccines or don't talk about the virus unless it's an authorized source or a medical professional that has been authorized by whoever, CDC, the who knows. But apparently, if you can't pass laws, you can't get mandates enforced, you resort to peer pressure. The administration has shifted to a head-on strategy to dispel fear-mongering over its door-to-door effort. So now, people are talking about this door-to-door things, and it would seem kind of very tongue-in-cheek, kind of, oh, well, you know, one of those things where, oh, the government is going to go door-to-door, are they? But I'm here to tell you, during the election, I had as many as 2 people a day. Yes, 2 people a day coming to the door, asking if I was a registered voter, asking me if I was the resident of the home of the registered voter, which I thought was very personal and invasive. So what I extrapolated from that was that perhaps they didn't have more updated registration information, like who had registered within, say, several weeks, several days, or several months. They may have been going off old records because here in the state of Georgia, it was always kind of a joke that people didn't register to vote because they didn't want to get selected for jury duty. That changed several years ago, so now they base it on driver's licenses. But it's curious to know because when the switch happened, I don't recall when the switch from driver's licenses happened, but up until the point of driver's licenses, if courts needed to get jury pools, it was selected from registered voters. So people intentionally didn't vote, which makes the whole ID thing even more ridiculous, because if you can apply for a mail-in ballot, you can apply for a government ID or state ID. I meant to say state ID. You can apply for either because the process is the same. So let's read from this article real quick. The Biden administration is casting conservative opponents of its COVID-19 vaccine campaign as dangerous and extreme. Really. So conservative opponents are the only people that pose a potential danger. Well, that makes sense coming from Politico, and it makes sense coming from the Democrats, adopting a more aggressive political posture in an attempt to maneuver through the public health conundrum. Well, wouldn't it be fair to say that the aggressive maneuvering of changing laws in 2019 when it came to mail-in ballots, and then when the illness came along, they then made even more concessions, and they made these emergency concessions that they want to hold on to. This is incredible government overreach right here. We're talking about a government that is insisting that things happen in a certain way for a certain particular outcome that they want, or the way they want people to behave. This is outrageous. This is not something that you would expect or anticipate in the United States of America. It's absolutely ridiculous. Which leads us to our next topic here. If you guys caught any of CPAC, YouTube deletes Trump video, freezes CPAC account. ACU chairman Matt Schlapp, this is yet another example of big tech censoring content which they disagree. I am going to say, and this could be hyperbolic, this could be speculation on my part, I would argue that big tech, the Democrats, the mainstream media, and special interests and activists push for censorship because their ideas can't compete in the arena of ideas. Their ideas are being shut down. Their ideas are being dismissed. And so when conservative voices are out there and they're outlining and explaining, like I'm doing here in this video, about what's going on, they need individuals like me shut down and censored, because we're giving people information as coherently, as rationally, in a common sense fashion so people can understand. And the Democrats don't want that. They want people to listen and obey. Subscribe to their ideology, subscribe to their philosophy, or else we'll let our cancel culture, woke people out there go after you. And that's basically what's happening. It's basically exactly what we saw with Antifa, BLM, and Black Bloc during the Trump administration. They put them on TV and said, look how disgruntled these people are because Donald J. Trump is the president. Look at what they're doing. They are so upset that we have gotten to this point in our country where they're feeling oppressed, they're feeling persecuted, but they're not. And I was going to go into the whole Cuban the whole Cuban protest that's going on. We're going to cover that in the Friday vlog. I'll cover that tomorrow for the Friday vlog. But don't you find it interesting that in Cuba, and when we covered Hong Kong, people were waving the American flags as signs of freedom? Why don't people in this country value and appreciate the same level of freedom that the Hong Kong people and the Cuban people are struggling for? Do people not see this? I hope all the not Trump voters are paying very close attention when Cuba and Hong Kong are waving American flags because they want freedom, while here in the United States, they're burning the American flag. And they're suggesting that they're the ones that are oppressed, that they're the ones that are being persecuted. Really, none of them, I haven't seen a lot of them have their videos shut down and frozen. We saw the same thing happen to Right Side Broadcasting. They showed the rally of President Trump just recently, and they were suspended from YouTube for showing President Trump, a former president of the United States of America. Big tech has that much power. And now the administration wants to get involved with a utility, wants to get involved with the phone company and say, well, we're not going to allow people to disparage or engage in disinformation. People are always engaged in some sort of rumor mill, some sort of just conversation. And we see how far some people will go. So I'm shifting gears quite radically here, but we can see how far people are willing to go. This young lady, another article from the New York Post, influencer plummets to death while snapping waterfall selfie. This is where we are, ladies and gentlemen, in 2021, where people are so preoccupied with being influential, with having power, with being able to influence people, to convey a message, to get messages out there, that the administration is willing to go door to door to get people vaccinated or find out about their vaccination. And then you have this young lady who's out there trying to get likes and whatever she's looking for, appeasing her. Well, she's on Twitter. I don't know if she did it for Twitter, whether she's doing it for Instagram or Facebook. But suffices to say, she died in the process because this sense of information, influence, and distribution has become so heightened, so hyper-focused, that she was willing to risk her life to be able to get that attention that people are looking for, that platform that people are looking for. And it's very sad, but this is incredibly dangerous. This is dangerous. If Alex Jones had talked about this himself, people would have thought for sure it was a conspiracy theory. But here you have it from the New York Post. DNC Biden allies want phone carriers to vet anti-vax messages report. I don't think it would start with just that. How many times have you guys heard about courts trying to get subpoenas on Alexa in people's homes, particularly when there's been some violent crime or a murder? They want to subpoena the Alexa unit to be able to hear conversations that may have happened during what led up to the murder and during the murder and maybe after. So we're on very dangerous grounds right now. And I can remember when Alex Jones used to talk about all this stuff, and here we are right here, where they're willing to go after our text messages to make sure that we're not spreading misinformation. Are you kidding me? This is almost worse than Russia. This is nearly as bad as China. That's what they do, or that's what Russia used to do. And China absolutely does it. But the United States of America, while Cuba is protesting this week, this article comes out. Absolutely astounding. So I would encourage you guys to absolutely share this video with others to let them know that this is actually happening and what could it manifest. And if you haven't already, below this video, I have a list of all of my social media where you guys can follow me. That's going to be Standard Media as well as Alt Tech, so you guys can see articles that I post about this there without creating a video, but I had to make a video on this. And of course, for all of you guys that are here on YouTube, you can now click on that icon appearing right there on the screen. That will allow you to know when there's content here on the channel by selecting notifications. I have removed notifications for when I send out video shorts because I don't want you guys to get too much of that as it's coming out. But nonetheless, guys, this was the most breaking story I wanted to share with you, and I will see you guys probably in the Friday vlog.